So I'm Becky, everybody, and I'm really thrilled to be with you here today. And we're going to talk about something a little bit different. And so we're going to dive into something that's really close to my heart, and this is about early careers leadership. And so it's, as I said, it's an uncomfortable topic for me because I don't actually like talking about myself. I like talking about AI. I like talking about candidate experience, digital engagement. So I do feel a little bit nervous, so be kind to me. But this is very much in the context of learning. So effectively, over the last few years, we've seen in early careers some monumental changes. So we've seen digital transformation in hybrid working, whether we have a digital online assessment going back to in-person assessments at EY drastically quickly. And also we've seen lots of different models impacting recruitment. So it's ever-changing, the landscape, and it's completely ambiguous. And it begs the question to me, and it's something that I often ask myself, is how can we be better early careers leaders that effectively make a difference? And that means being bold. And so effectively, today, I want to challenge you to think about how you can all be bold in terms of early careers leadership, and what does that journey look like. So we can lead in early careers, but we need to be bold because the environment around us is changing rapidly. And so what I'd like you to do is to take a moment and reflect yourself on a challenge in your early careers work right now that keeps you up at night. So just take a moment to have a personal reflection, and what would it do for you to help solve that challenge? So what one bold thing would you actually do, and what's actually preventing you from doing that? So just take a pause, have a reflection, and we'll come to that a little bit later. We're going to talk about being brave today. So we often hear about leadership, but we also need to think about in the context of being bold, as I said. So for me, it's about taking risks. It's challenging the norms. And early careers is really exciting. That's why I've actually stayed in early careers, because it is an exciting place to be, and it requires the bold ideas. But also, it's not about taking random risks. It's about calculated, courageous moves, and you always need to ensure that you're using data. And so, as I said, we're always facing new challenges. There's lots of budget constraints. Even at EY, we had budget constraints, believe it or not. The pressure to deliver at pace, lots of evolving business expectations. But the one thing for me is about being audacious, is about everyone around you, even at EY, they were telling me to hold back. How do we actually stand out on campus? But yet we didn't have some of the strategies to embolden us to do that. So nothing changes if we carry on as is. So we need to be bold as leaders. So I'm going to talk to you now about some of the awards. And this slide, is a great slide. And it's not really about me. It's about the journey it takes and the idea behind an award. So it's not about a shiny trophy, and it's not about a LinkedIn post. It is really about the hard work, the journey, and the courage to keep going. And, for me, a lot of these awards were not easy tasks to achieve, even when it felt really impossible. So for me, a lot of people in the TA space and leadership space say, look, Rebecca, I just don't believe in awards. They almost, want to shun them. This is about, your own personal agenda. But for me, an award comes to the idea of trying to solve a real life problem. And so we heard this earlier from Sky and also from Deloitte. And it's about solving a real issue. So something that really, truly connects with your heart. And that's when you know that the work is award worthy. So it's not just about recognition, it's about making meaningful change. So every award that I've won has been about making fundamental change. So, for example, ripping down hidden barriers that prevent talent from being treated fairly, breaking the status quo, and tackling challenges that are often overlooked. And, so my advice is when you're thinking about an award is to really go after the proper issues in the talent space. So what's actually preventing you at work from bringing in the most diverse talent from really disadvantaged backgrounds? And when you try to solve those issues, then it becomes a meaningful agenda. So, for example, when I was at Transport for London, I managed to have the privilege of being awarded Leader of the Year. And actually, that was a great sacrifice to me, believe it or not. And it was beyond my comprehension at the time. And I actually did it without any budget at all. So there was no budget aligned to this. And in fact, what we did as a team, the early careers space, we went to the poorest boroughs in London. There's 33 boroughs in London, and we picked the poorest boroughs. So places like Tower Hamlets, places, like actually Westminster, the poorest places. And we started to hire directly from those boroughs, running big assessment centres, pop-up assessment centres, also in prisons. We went to Brixton Prison. We went to youth offending prisons. And so it was all about bringing the untapped talent pool into apprenticeships. And so it really connected me to the passion, and that's how we won the award. And at the same time, I was leading the executive recruitment team, and we were recognised as the sole team in TfL for reducing the gender pay gap. And that was because we made it our bold mission to make a leadership hire every 9 days that was female. And just by doing that, we managed to reduce the gender pay gap. So here's the thing. The work that truly matters doesn't actually come with a big budget. And I want to demystify that, because lots of people say to me, oh, you were at EY, you had millions of pounds. Actually, some of the most meaningful awards that I've been honoured to achieve have been without budget. So I kind of call myself a bit of a scrappy innovator rather than a big budget pioneer. So I just wanted to go through my career journey, and this is really about bold leadership in transition. So I've had the privilege of leading many great people, and one thing that stands out to me is the sheer ambition of recruiters today. So we've seen it on Handshake. I think there was a stat a couple of years ago that Gen Zs want to have a promotion every 6 months. And I've seen the same in the early recruiter space. Everybody's eager to race to the top and snag the next promotion. But actually, for me, as you can see, it's taken me a long time to get to where I am. And I've really enjoyed the journey. And there's been lots of twists and turns. So as I started my career, I started in an RPO, and for me, it was quite frankly a crash course in gaining commercial acumen, which was really helpful for me when I was at EY. And then it taught me how to balance business needs with client expectations, and also how to navigate high-stakes environments. From there, I moved into banking, and the pace was pretty relentless. I think you can see some emoji faces and fire signs in there. It taught me how to be accountable, coming up with contingency plans, and basically being a sole responsible owner. So you could not walk away. Even if I had to stay there until 10, 11 o'clock at night in investment banking, you were there, right? And lastly, when I actually went to Nationwide, this is where it taught me really to hone my ability to build business cases. And what I don't see today are many business cases in some of the teams that I've led. And writing a business case is a craft, and it's something that I would encourage all of you to really think about. It's about getting, the data, the insights, and making those key recommendations and proposals, and actually getting that investment, even if budget is tight. So at Nationwide, believe it or not, at one point, I actually didn't even make a single hire for 9 months. And actually, it was one of my biggest accomplishments when I didn't make a hire. But what I did was actually develop a business case and to convince the business to shift into a completely different direction and to actually develop a graduate program. So in terms of my career, for me, as I said, it's really been about enjoying the journey and gaining the depth and breadth of experience. And I appreciate that everybody is eager for promotion. I would like to get promoted. I'm always ambitious to set myself, high achievements. But it will come. So don't rush it. Embrace the journey. Leadership isn't about speed. It's about depth, resilience, and influence. And actually, in my career, I've been able to really move across different types of roles, different disciplines, and gain different experience, which actually makes me a much better and broader leader today. So this slide, I'm not going to go into too much detail. You can see the transport link quite clearly with the road there. This is effectively what that slide looks like if you lifted the bonnet. Okay, so this is the good, the bad, and the ugly. Okay, so leadership isn't about smooth sailing. It often comes with navigating foggy roads. It's a bit like driving down the M5 on a Friday night in the rain and a sinkhole emerges in front of you. And so I'm not going to go into every twist and turn, but for example, one standout moment for me at EY was where I pushed to remove the numeric test for roles that didn't need it. And that was not easy to do. It was sacrosanct at EY. The numeric test is sacrosanct. There's whole teams built around keeping that numeric test. This was personal for me. I'd been rejected by the Big Four at university because of my maths skills. And effectively, despite having potential, which I knew I had because I was ending up leading graduate recruitment at EY, and the irony behind that did not escape me. But I saw myself in so many hidden talent gems that we were rejecting off the bat for roles that didn't actually need a maths test. But removing the test wasn't just about data. So don't always rely on data, because I had so much data, it was coming out of my ears. My goodness, we had a lot of data and the business was still really stuck on the maths test. But it was about shifting cultural norms and this traditional mindset. So for months, I hit dead ends. So you can see, this is it. There were fogs, there were twists, there were turns, there were sinkholes. But what I did was draw on my past experience from TfL. So I'd previously removed some similar tests within TfL influencing the right people at the top with my executive recruitment background. And at EY, my narrative was pretty simple, and own your narrative. So I just kept talking about, let's turn the Ferrari into a Tesla. The system is overbuilt. It's brilliant. It works. We are getting the best talent available, but it's not sustainable. And it's not sustainable for today's talent needs that we have. And so we needed to be leaner, more maneuverable like a Tesla, and we needed to be smarter. So I owned my narrative, and we actually did remove the maths test. On the flip side, there are other challenges where you may not have access to information. So currently my role at Synopsys, I've been involved in harmonizing 15 countries in terms of early career pathways, and there has been no data, no clear direction, varying regional needs, lots of ad hocism. There were about 55 types of internships, 43 program names and definitions. And so, what I needed to do was build a unified strategy. So effectively, I had to build it from scratch. And I noticed that there were some comments earlier. So very happy for you to pull me aside if any of you are struggling to think about how do you approach developing an early careers program from scratch. So I led on lots of feedback sessions, lots of global workshops, lots of cross-functional collaboration, and effectively developing the data. And so for me, it's when you face a major obstacle, enjoy it, right? Because you will get there. If you have planted that seed and you feel that it's the right thing to do, pick your battles, but you should absolutely go for it. But you must also be a little bit zen. So that's kind of me there. So being zen is about letting some things wash over you, okay? So when faced with some of these big battles, leadership is about solving problems with ambiguity, right? And you would not be a leader if you're not solving problems with ambiguity. So embrace the ambiguity. But most importantly, it's about curiosity. So putting your hands up, asking questions, because the solutions will eventually appear. And when you do this, what I find is that clarity and understanding come over time, and people will be willing to help you. So instead of letting this kind of uncertainty, because there's a lack of something, paralyze you, it's really good to actually start challenging assumptions and looking at what is your organization doing? How does that compare to your competitors? So for me, it's Synopsys. I brought in lots of different trends that I was seeing. It's NVIDIA, Amazon, Microsoft, Google. It's all out there, right? So it's about creating that storyboard. So a top TA leader shared with me recently the taxonomy of skills in TA, and I've modified this slightly for early careers. And this is what I see and what I don't see as an early careers leader. It is not just about technical expertise, it's about having the global mindset, embracing digital fluency, but also being commercially savvy and maintaining creativity. As leaders, we have to bring strategic thinking and adaptability and the ability to influence at a higher level. And it's also about setting a really bold vision, but bringing your team along with you. So as you can see, so I'll just bring some of these up. There's some curveballs coming in, right? So they all come at you, right? Again, embrace the change, embrace the curveballs, because actually when you're developing these skills, it means that you're on the right path. So the reality of leadership. So this. Oops, that's my daughter. So the reality of leadership and the challenges that you face. So this is a very personal slide to me, and you'll hear my daughter in the background. I've got twins who are now 14. So this is them playing role plays when they were little, and you can see my son's got a superhero vest on, which is really cute. But effectively, as a leader, you're going to encounter many personal struggles, personal sacrifice, never-ending to-do lists, late nights, self-doubt, imposter syndrome, blockers. I love a blocker. I'm like the chief blocker removal in a big firm. It's like the job that I do, and I own it now, so that's good. But there's one thing that is not unique, and the fact is that we all face it, okay? And it's hard and lonely leading, right? So it's really important that you embrace some of these. I call them my 10 commandments of early careers leadership here on the right-hand side. I'm just going to pull out 3. My top tips. Okay, so my top tip is number 1 is get input from others and seek validation. Okay, get input, but don't let them derail your ideal. Okay, because whilst consensus can water down ambition, and I saw a lot of this at EY, right? Lots of great ideas, and then by the time we implemented them, they were watered down. So you need to keep the bigger picture in mind as a leader and be courageous and stand steadfast to your conviction. At EY, we had bold ideas that seemed so out there, some of them coming from me, by the way, and my team. But they ended up winning awards because they were solving real problems. So if you go back to this idea of this emotional connection of something that you feel really passionate about. if I listened to all of the feedback that I got, I would have not developed the digital EY Adventure Awaits learning platform and or the VR internship of the year. So we wouldn't have done it. Okay. So I think it's really important to stand fast to your passions. There's a couple down here that I'm not good at, I'll be honest. Protect your energy, okay? So in purple. So I'll admit I'm working on this. I'm a complete workaholic, as you can see. But in my previous role, I didn't always manage my energy as well as I should have done. The intensity of work can drain you, and it's crucial to recognize and when to recharge. Set boundaries and avoid burnout. It's really important, and you have to protect that at all costs. And then the last one is about failure is intuition and growth. I personally love failure. I actually try to strive for failure. It's my contingency planning that I learned it when I was at Barclays. Rebecca, have a plan C, D, E, and F. Okay, so I see it as a redirection. Okay, so my approach is start small, run a pilot, test it, learn from it, then scale it. So whatever I've done is it starts small. I don't just go out there with this massive, crazy idea. There's always a ladder effect to get there. And also, as I said, seek input from your team, and also they can help embolden some of your ideas as well. Okay. So I want to give you a tangible example of leadership, bold leadership in action, and I'm not going to go into all of these, but I'm just going to pick out attraction there. So instead of diving straight into high-level solutions, I tend to take a ladder approach. So I align the solution with the recruitment cycle. I always have the recruitment cycle in my mind. And then I focus first on the core problem, from working towards innovative solutions, guiding the business and team step by step. So, for example, at EY, our campus presence was a perfect example. So when I joined, it was quite traditional, and that was needed at the time. We were just coming out of COVID, so we hadn't invested in big campus activations. But effectively, we needed the team to think differently, really radically. So we got the team immersed in this idea of bringing their ideas. We started with donuts. We ended up with spinning wheels, cafe pop-ups, robot dog. The robot dog was highly contentious, but we did it, and it got really great feedback. But these small steps led to a huge innovation, a mega Airstream bus that we took to campus. And we ended up building physical installations. And my proudest achievement was the EY Adventure Awaits platform, which is a learning experience for young people coming out of COVID. We saw lots of declines in our assessment scores, and I know Capfinity were working with us at that time. And so we created an online island with 6 hotspots and a physical installation on campus. And just to give you an idea of a small budget, you can see we brought Tranquility Lakes to our in-person assessment centres, which people thought I was raving mad when I said, look, Hamleys actually have smell marketing, right? 75% of people, adults, go into Hamleys and they will purchase a toy because actually it's smelling like candy floss, right? So we actually brought in diffusers, Pinewood Forest diffusers into our assessment centres. We brought stress balls in, we had yoga mats, and for our neurodivergent candidates, they absolutely loved it. And we even took it into our group exercise, the actual diffusers, because it actually created a really calm environment. And that cost about £90. Okay, so you can have really brave ideas with very, very small budgets. So we've reached the end. I know that Mark has stood up because I will go on. So hopefully I'm keeping to time. But I hope you've enjoyed my talk. As I said, I always feel a bit uncomfortable talking about myself. But this is really about learning and your evolution into this leadership role. I just wanted to get a show of hands around the room now to to ask you whether you feel emboldened now to go into work, into your busy roles, and take some bold actions. So give me a show of hands if you feel more courage to do that, because obviously that's a clear KPI that I've set myself today as my learning objective. Great. Thank you, everyone. So I'm looking forward to all your bold moves on LinkedIn, but I think we're going to have some questions. Is that right?